Thank you, and I'd certainly like to associate myself with the remarks of the chairman in that last exchange. Ambassador Greenfield, that is a good segue into what I wanted to talk with you about, and that is the discussion we've had here today shows the tremendous disconnect between America and the other democracies in the world and the autocracies and their seeming ambivalence at best to people starving all over the world and refusing to do anything about it. When that happens, you sit here and you wonder, what is this United Nations for anyway? I mean, the United Nations, as the chairman has pointed out, is a place where these things should be resolved. And we just had reference to the fact that there's these negotiations going on that we all know about. It was done in Iran with Turkey and Russia. Where's the United Nations on this? It seems that they're just absent on it. And I'm not saying this is your fault by any stretch. It's the organization itself. A lot of us have had reservations for a long time about what they spend a lot of money, but what gets done?
Thank you for that question. I understand your frustration, Senator, but I will say that the United Nations has been proactively engaged in these negotiations that have taken place in Istanbul, and they were responsible for bringing the parties together, for bringing the Ukrainians, the Russians, and the Turks together. The Iranians were never involved in any of these discussions. So what we see happening now in Iran is very much separate from the engagement that the UN was responsible for putting together. I will also say that in New York, we are able to galvanize countries from all over the world. We brought 141 countries to the table to condemn Russia's actions, and I can tell you that the Russians were making every effort to intimidate and press those countries away from supporting this General Assembly resolution. And their disinformation campaign is extraordinarily effective, which is why we have to ramp up our efforts to engage with these countries and get the information out that will counter the Russian narrative. I've had a series of what I have referred to as listening tours with various regions, with Africa, with Latin America, with countries, the ASEAN countries, with the Middle East, to put on the table the facts of what is happening on the ground and making sure that they understand that Russia is responsible for what is happening. It is not Ukraine's fault. It is not sanctions. It is their brutal war against Ukraine.
Well, I appreciate that, and you guys did good work getting a number of people to condemn. What amazes me is sitting here as an outsider and looking at it that there were even a handful of people that would get behind the Russians. That absolutely amazes me, and it's all well and good that that vote was as lopsided as it was, but then what? I mean, the UN is supposed to exist to resolve this stuff, and when you have a vote that lopsided, we know what's right, we know what's wrong, but nothing's happened. I mean, certainly NATO is a strong force. NATO's responded and come together and is stronger than it's ever been. But the UN, again, just seems to be absent on the thing. I mean, talk is wonderful, but doing something on the ground is so much more important, and it's not happening.
Again, looking at the fact that the UN has been responsible for feeding more than 10 million people with our support and with your generosity, as well as that from the rest of the world. But I commend the World Food Program and others who have really taken a proactive approach to responding to the humanitarian crisis. And we could not do that without the United Nations. But I'm not here to defend every action. We know that the organization has its flaws, and that is why I sit every day in New York and make every effort to work with other countries to reform the organization.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And Administrator Power, I think that those statistics that you rolled out about what we're doing and what China's doing is something that really isn't out there in the general media, and I think all of us ought to be pressing that. I think that better than anything demonstrates the cavalier, nonchalant, careless attitude that China and the other people that are complicit with Russia in this have. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.